Welcome everyone to the Omniverse of Nick, and the one-off to John Wick being in The Walking Dead, entering into a story-filled plot for this character. But before we get into that though, be sure, as always, to smash that like button and subscribe to the Omniverse of Nick, as well as comment your favorite part of the story or things that are going on the channel currently, as well as future requests that you might be able to see on this channel in the future. With all that out of the way, once you guys get all that done, we shall get into today's episode, being what if John Wick was in The Walking Dead? Now, I have done not too many crossovers, but I've teased and I've already done plenty. For example, ones I've done John Cena, I've done Jason Voorhees, and I have done Jigsaw, aka John Kramer, aka the Master Trap Designer. But now, we're touching upon one of the mightiest assassins in all of fiction history, John frickin' Wick. And, as always, for my crossover what-ifs, I'm going to be splitting up how I manage him in the Walking Dead universe in categories. With John Wick, there will be 3. Number 1, who John Wick would have trouble fighting, or he would be able to truly kill or put up a fight against. I'm sorry.
Why are you laughing?
Because it's hilarious!
Okay, jokes aside, I am going to be extremely nice with this first one, because literally, as you know of John Wick and just in general, he pretty much solos, but I'll still figure it out, all things considered. Number 2, how he would deal with the walkers. And number 3, how John Wick would fit into the Walking Dead story, which you guys are going to want to stick around for, especially if you've seen updates and everything like that, because for that last one especially, you're definitely not going to want to miss any details, unless you already know about all the stuff, in which case, whatever. Anyway, let's set the scene. John Wick, who he would fight and actually have trouble against, or would be a good challenge for him. But first, again, I have to stress that I'm going to be extremely nice here, because John Wick is just not fit for The Walking Dead. He is far too powerful. But nerfing him honestly wouldn't work, like Kid Goku, Yajirobe, and others that I have planned. So we have to deal with it, because there are still plenty of strong people that John Wick would at least have a small percentage of trouble with. But who? Well, I'll explain. Abraham, for one, would put up a great fight. He was a military soldier. Well, not military, but he did serve. And he definitely had more going for him than I think a lot of people gave him credit for. And then, Daniel Salazar, who, me personally, I've always viewed Daniel Salazar as like Fear the Walking Dead's John Wick, even though I misinterpreted he was not actually an assassin. And if you guys really have seen the prognosis on stories and updates and everything, definitely stick around for the end, because we got some with Wick and Daniel that I'm going to be talking about at the end. Now, for others, Mercer, most definitely, because he was high up in the Commonwealth. He was pretty much the strongest soldier, even though we didn't see him fight too much. We can definitely put him on Abraham and Beta's level, who we're talking about next, because Beta, he survived 2 knives in the eyes, getting thrown into an elevator shaft, and tanking hits from Rosita and several other Walking Dead characters. So he would definitely put up a great fight. Jesus, especially next, because he was a great combat professional. His comic adaptation, I feel, would do way better, but his show counterpart has enough credit to show that he would still put up a great fight. And last but not least, Okafor. because he was a high up in the CRM, one of the strongest soldiers, and he beat Rick down pretty easily, even though Rick's hand-to-hand combat didn't improve till the Ones Who Live finale. But that's beside the point. After that, really getting on to the whole thing with John Wick, again, all of those people I just mentioned, that is me being nice. Okay, maybe Beta, Mercer, and Abraham, and likely Jesus would be the closest to hand-to-hand combat to match Wick. But yeah. Anyways, next would be walkers. And it's really not that much to talk about. We have seen Wick literally kill people with a pencil, high-up soldiers with a pencil, and just handily killing people left, right, and center. So walkers, they would not even be close to a problem for Wick. He would be literally, he's literally a one-man army. We all know this. You can argue, though, on the case of walkers, that ones like the variants from Daryl Dixon, the big variants from Dead City, and then last but not least, Winslow, that one walker from Jadis's Junkyard, would pose kind of a problem for Wick, but they would only cause as much a problem as some of the other people I just mentioned that would fight Wick. Not even. But with weapons that John Wick has used, like the Dragon Breath shotgun and the pencil, again, and his mastery of combat maneuvers and gun usage, it's just, it would barely be much more of a problem with those higher up walkers. So, again, not too much to talk about. And then last but not least, how would Wick fit into the Walking Dead story? And to be completely freaking for real with you guys, I had several different ways to think about this. Number one, I could put him at the end of season 8 when Rick's people and a kingdom, all that, are fighting the saviors in that final battle. Eugene betrays them. We all know what happened. And then whenever Negan is saved, John Wick pretty much appears, and that's how he joins. Like, he's the one to gun him down instead of Eugene betraying the saviors, you know? But after discarding that one, I did decide to actually save John Wick being hired by Negan. So that what if is still in store, but that's not enough for Wick. I wanted to do something more. And then I tried to think about going to the beginning and having Rick at the very start when he's going to Atlanta meet Wick, their names rhyme, have him meet Rick that way, and then John Wick basically be a carrying character. It's kind of a weird way to say that, but it just, we pretty much can infer he would solo the entire story afterwards. It just wasn't right to do it that way either. But now, looking into Daniel Salazar more, seeing how much he compares to John Wick, I finally got my head thinking around a actual story built plot besides hiring by Negan, because that could very well just be a two-parter. And I just realized that they're so similar, even if Salazar wasn't an assassin. So I decided to build a story around the both of them being connected around the same assassination program, friends, brothers, that sort of thing, and then have Wick and Salazar be the two mains of Fear the Walking Dead and put them in the story that way. Even though it'll be, like I just mentioned, the whole beginning Walking Dead thing, except vastly different with Salazar and how Wick actually gets introduced. But for now, can't say any more, as that ends this video. Now I can already hear a bunch of you asking me, why did you abandon the John Wick and Negan story, and why didn't you just make the John Wick one a story? Well, you see, like all my other crossovers, I just like to imagine them just and analyze them for if they did come in. With the Lightning McQueen one, which is literally my next story, it's going to be different. Not all of them are going to be the same. Like, not all of them I'm going to analyze, and they're actually going to be in a story. But with this one specifically, and all my other ones, they just didn't seem like characters I could integrate into a group or a general story. You know? It just didn't feel proper. But I do plan to make remakes, I believe so, of at least like the Jason one. I'm not sure yet. I might integrate them into stories, but for all intents and purposes, the John Cena one, I could just as easily leave that go. For the Jigsaw one, I could leave that go too. The Jason Voorhees one is the most logical one to be incorporated as a general story. With this, I got rid of the Negan story with John Wick because I'm going to be integrating John Wick and Daniel Salazar as pretty much friends / brothers, if you will, and actually integrate Salazar as a true assassin and make those two part of the same assassin clan, making Daniel an actual assassin, because I misinterpreted the knowledge there and thought that he was an actual assassin, because so much of him just flooded out John Wick, if you guys paid attention to Fear and Daniel's character. You would have thought of him as an older John Wick. And then, when I was comparing the two in this video, I was like, And then it hit me. I could abandon any other story with John Wick that I was thinking of, just that one, make this the introduction to John Wick and Daniel as part of the same story. Now, I'm not going to spoil the name, or the details, or how it happens. Just know that it's going to be a story revolving Fear and some of the Walking Dead, obviously, because Fear integrated the real Walking Dead. And it's going to involve the two of them specifically, which is going to make Fear's group very overpowered. Especially since I'm making Daniel an assassin. Now, I'm not going to make him as overpowered as John Wick, even though he kind of is, because he is still an old man. But he will at least get a tiny bit of an upgrade, being an actual assassin. You get what I'm saying? So only a little bit. John Wick, he's going to be the same level, because I can't nerf him. Not him, at least. It was a hard time alone to integrate him into the story and finding people he could even, like, have an actual fight with. Because, let's be honest, The Walking Dead, John Wick almost solos. He's pretty much a Black Widow and Hawkeye level character. He belongs in the MCU more than The Walking Dead. And I bet a lot of you can agree with that. And not even those two we thought would fit into the Marvel universe, but yet they did. Somehow. But that's besides the point. My point is, I'm not going to upload this, as I just said here in the finale here, or, you know, the one-parter, since this isn't really a finale, it's a one-parter, what the frick ever. I'm not going to do this like the Merle and Beta spinoff with that story. I'm not going to upload it twice at the same time. I'm going to leave it as an extra surprise because it's not a spinoff or something built into a story or from a story. It's building into its own story. So it makes sense for me to wait until I throw out the next 10 what-ifs into the schedule format, since this whole new schedule and genre thing is new in the first place. It makes sense to wait on making the story until I do up the other two stories and then resurface it back to this. So, the next John Wick story, crossover slash thing, since it's very confusing with crossovers, I put them in multiple playlists as well as crossovers, just because it makes the most sense. But just know that in the next batch, this actual plot will be recognized. It will be a special preview for members and whatnot and everything. I'm of course going to tell everyone about it still, member or not, but just know that it's going to be big. The name I got from ChatGPT, like with the Merlin beta one, because it made me think of the Omniverse of Nick, and it helped out with Merlin beta's spin-off names. So even though I can't do the short AI what-ifs anymore, ChatGPT and other things are helping out pretty freaking well, I'd have to say, and it really has gotten me pumped for this story, actually integrating John Wick into a true story. And like I said, Jason's the only one I can really do that with, because like John Cena and Jigsaw, I can't really, and that's gonna go with half the other crossovers I got planned, just to spoil you guys a little. It's just how it is. But not all of them, and this should be a clear-cut giveaway. So, with that, I hope you guys enjoyed this one-off and pretty much starting point into the John Wick and Daniel story. Mainly John Wick being introduced into The Walking Dead. Now, the last two batches for the first cycle of new scheduled what-ifs is what if Rick found Lightning McQueen. And I've got a pretty neat setup that I found out and made for how Lightning McQueen gets there. I'm not going to spoil it, but you guys will definitely like where it goes. And even though the ending is obviously, you know, with many of my stories, the end, I just go and think about like near the middle or like almost ending of the story. But this, I actually thought of an ending, but I don't know if it's actually going to come to pass, because originally with my Cliff story, I had wanted Cliff to take Bumblebee's place and actually sacrifice himself, and then Bumblebee gets his voice back and kills Megatron and literally all that. But then we saw how my Transformers story went, and it went the completely opposite way. So, nothing's set in stone with the ending, but with how I want this ending to go, you guys are going to like the What If Rick Found Lightning McQueen story, regardless if the ending is a certain way or not. You guys are really going to like it, because hey, it's a talking car in a zombie show. What more could you ask for? But with that, hope you guys liked this entry into the John Wick and Daniel story, and stay tuned soon for Rick and Lightning McQueen. See you guys then.
Hit.